Hello everyone. Today I'm going to continue on with my trip through the films of 1972. I'm doing, I was going to do 5, I'm now going to do 6 Westerns to begin this journey. And today's will be The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. And this stars Paul Newman. It's directed by John Huston. And this is probably one of the strangest, definitely the strangest of the 6 Westerns I'll be discussing. A lot of people didn't know what to make of it when it came out in 1972, and I didn't either, and I enjoyed it a lot more this time around, but it is a very strange movie, and it's a total fictionalization of Judge Roy Bean. He had been used in the movies many times, most famously Walter Brennan in the 1936 Gary Cooper movie, The Plainsman. But the screenplay here is by John Milius, and he was one of the Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola band of young rising filmmakers, and touted for the great screenplays he was writing, but he wanted to direct. And so this was a project that he wanted to be his first film to direct. And he envisioned it as a low-budget Western that he would make in Spain with Warren Oates playing Judge Roy Bean, and as kind of a tribute to the Westerns of Sergio Leone. And the first scene in Judge Roy Bean, you can see this Leone aspect of the screenplay because Roy Bean has robbed the bank, and he has come to a shack out in the middle of nowhere where a hangout for outlaws. He gets a very cool welcome there, however, and they hear he's just robbed a bank, so they beat him up, they steal his money, they put a noose around his neck, they have a horse drag him out into the desert to die. But he doesn't die. There's an angel of mercy, a young Mexican woman who has seen what has happened. She runs out to his aid. He asks for a gun. She finds a gun for him. He goes back into the cafe and he shoots up the place. And this is really a Sergio Leone aspect of the movie. And it's very well filmed. One of those indoor gunfights are always kind of interesting to see how they choreograph them. But then after the gunfight, he's become obviously deranged. Paul Newman is very funny and very unusual performance in this film. And he sits there out among, there's a law book there, and he's reading the law book while all these corpses are scattered around him. And then the movie becomes a series of vignettes, and where we have kind of cameo appearances by many famous movie stars. And the first one is Anthony Perkins, and it's pretty good. He comes into town, he's dressed in black, long black hair, black hat. He's glaring at the camera, Norman Bates-wise. He's an Old Testament preacher, and he's very, he's laconic. He says, we got to bury them. He buries all these bodies. There's like 8 or 9 of them, and on a hill, which, as the film progresses, this cemetery, this makeshift cemetery, becomes pretty well inhabited. And we get a string of these kind of vignettes. Probably the most famous one, and certainly the funniest one, is when Stacy Keach, he plays Bad Bob, the original Bad Bob, and he comes to town. He's going to, for the sole purpose of finding Judge Roy Bean and sending him to his maker. He's hilarious. And then Tab Hunter shows up, Roddy McDowell. He actually has a significant role. He's the weasel representing civilization, and as the town of Langtree, which Judge Roy Bean calls the town that grows up around his courthouse. The cafe has now become a courthouse. And we also get a cameo from John Huston himself, and the Angel of Mercy becomes Roy Bean's lady love, and they discover him digging his grave. He says it's time to die, and he's got this cart with a bear, and then he skedaddles and leaves the bear with the judge, and the bear steals every scene he's in, and he's so good. I thought this can't possibly be a bear. But then when I did some research on it, the bear is played by Bruno, and Bruno was Gentle Ben in the TV show in the 1970s. He's really good. And then we have Victoria Principal. She's the Angel of Mercy. Now, I didn't recognize her. I watched the credits, but my short-term memory loss when she enters the movie, I'm like, wow, astonishingly beautiful. This is her debut film, and reportedly her and Anthony Perkins had a passionate affair going during the filming of the movie. But we do see, you know, the typical mother and whore aspect of womanhood. She representing the mother, and then we have these prostitutes that come to town, but as Roddy McDowell, the weasel, builds up civilization, they get married, and then of course they turn exactly the other way. They're the arbiters of morality now. But it's a really schizophrenic movie because Milius' screenplay, I'm sure, was not the satire of Sergio Leone movies, but basically the ultra-violence of Westerns. You know, Milius is into, I guess he even says himself, everybody calls me a reactionary. I'm actually a Zen nihilist, whatever that might be. He's an odd figure, but certainly he extols the virtues of rugged individualism, and he places the judge into this mythical characters that made the West great. And he also wrote the screenplay to the next movie I'm going to talk about that was also released in 1972, Jeremiah Johnson. He's on a little bit more firm ground with Jeremiah Johnson. The real life Judge Roy Bean is nothing like the mythology of Judge Roy Bean. And so this kind of reactionary view of this rugged individualism and the corruption of society is up against the kind of more or less liberal tendencies of John Huston and the star Paul Newman. So, you know, I don't know that any of John Huston's films are overtly political, and I don't think this one is either. He was just having a blast, and there's no other screenwriter credited, so I imagine John Huston, who was obviously a legendary screenwriter as well as a director, probably wrote or rewrote a lot of these scenes to match his rather jaundiced view of John Milius's mythology of males, and so the film, you wonder, you know, and also Paul Newman, you know, he's his Judge Roy Bean, you know, I mean, he's just hanging people left and right, shooting them down, but he's a pathetic character, you know. He has this Lily Langtry obsession. And posters of Lily Langtry all through the courthouse. And he goes to the big city to see her when she comes, and he's named the town Langtry. And then he goes to the big city because she's giving a concert. He can't get a ticket. And he's just another country hick. In the Huston Newman version of Judge Roy Bean, he's pathetic. And he's easily conned when he's outside of his element. But again, it plays into the corruptness of civilization itself. Again, I found this a really entertaining film. Huston had another film in 1972 called Fat City, which was a critical hit, and with Stacy Keach, who's in here, and a boxing movie. And with Jeff Bridges, and there's Jeff Bridges. I will also be talking about Bad Company somewhere along the line. John Milius gets his chance. Again, he wasn't even 30 years old, but he had Jeremiah Johnson was a hit, and he made a film he wrote a script called Dillinger. Now he has Warren Oates on board, but he really lowered his script price because he was making a lot of money from scripts. Let me direct it, and you know, I'll cut my price for the script. So they did. So he got his wish to make Dillinger, and of course he works on a whole lot of Apocalypse Now and a whole lot of films, and directed Conan and a whole lot of movies going forward. Like I say, Life of Judge Roy Bean, it's a schizophrenic movie. But, and I guess the general consensus is it's too long, too many vignettes, but I enjoyed it start to finish. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened to me. I do appreciate it. My next video, Westerns from 1972, will be Jeremiah Johnson. That's a goodie. Okay, you guys take care.